Afternoon again. I request today's resource person, Dr. G.P. Sudhakar, to take over the dais. I now invite Jyoti ma'am to deliver a brief introduction about our team.
Good afternoon, everyone. So today we have Dr. G.P. Sudhakar sir. So he is having 40 plus year career spans corporate leadership and academia. After 17 years in sales, marketing and communications, he has spent the last 25 years shaping business education through teaching and research. He is also the president of a rural NGO improving education in underprivileged communities. Since 2019, Dr. Sudhakar sir has led efforts at the Center for Educational Excellence and Development to integrate Bharatiya management into business schools. A prolific writer, he shares his insights on his blog and Quora, guiding students in their educational journey. So today we have with us Dr. Sudhakar sir. I welcome you for the sessions.
To bring our attention to what I'm going to say, can we just do a quick practice? Just follow my instructions and do as I say. Just close your eyes. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Release slowly. Do that for at least for 3 breaths. Create an intention that this afternoon you will take something away from this lecture. You will learn something. You should have that intention. Create that intention. Gently open your eyes. Normally, after lunch sessions, I ask people to clap. I didn't do that now. I said better because all of you are senior faculty members. If it were students, normally what I would do is, because some way to, wake up before the, so before I even start, I must tell you a little bit about my introduction. Okay, whatever introduction I shared with the college, they read out. But I should give you the real introduction. The real introduction, because that is relevant to what we are going to speak, is that I have absolutely no background in IKS. Unlike all the other speakers whom I read in the brochure, unlike all of them, I am quite different in the sense that I don't know how to read or write Sanskrit. I have not been exposed to IKS. In fact, my whole life journey has been, my success, for example, has been because of my ability to speak and write in English. So that's what I thought was important. That's what probably my parents thought was important. I went to a school that was ISC school, okay, not the state board or the central board, but ISC school. And then, like I said, focused on my English language skills, and it helped me. So, till a couple of years ago, I had no idea of what is this. And so I am a little bit, what can I say, different from the others you are going to hear. So my approach to this topic is very simple. Can we learn something One thing, of course, we can pat our back and say, you know, India was greatest country, it was wonderful and all that is fine. But can we take away some things from that that I can use in my classroom today? Right. So that is what is my approach. So I'm not going to get into lot of detail or lot of, you know, some super stuff, right? So we will just stick to what can I do with all this today in my classroom, right? So we limited just to how we can apply IKS in our contemporary classroom, because there is a lot of things that we can learn from ancient India. So a couple of things we need to look at is, what is the requirement today? What is the requirement today? And what was happening in the past? And can we learn something from the past which is absolutely relevant today? Okay, for example, in my field, I think all of you are engineers, and I have no clue about engineering education, but in my field, right, business, okay, I teach business. Now in business, what has happened is, the latest, I am talking about 2025, all the reports, whether America, Europe, everywhere, they are saying businesses are failing because of the lack of ethics among business managers. And at the same time, we have loads of material about how to teach ethics, the value of ethics, right? This is a very simple thing to do. So this is the requirement of today, and this is what we have to offer, and so we can just marry them. I'm giving you as an example, right? So let's go through my presentation. So this guy is a Sri Lankan, a good friend of Pandit Nehru, right? And many of our students, and I don't know about our students, but at least I fall in this category. So I fall in this category. That means, if you ask me about Mahabharata, I can tell you about Shakespeare. So this is a fact. This is, you know, at least the last 3, 4 generations or 5 generations, maybe after 60s at least, this is a fact. But he said this when? In 1908. I'm giving you a background as to why NEP is talking about what it is talking about. Again, go back to the root of this. You go back to Macaulay's, his presentation to the British government. What did he say? He said a single shelf of good European library was worth the whole native literature of India. He says you put all the literature of India together, it is not even equivalent to half a shelf of British literature. Just you imagine. Right? So soon after this, we have shifted to throwing out all the Gurukuls, throwing out all the Sanskrit and throwing out everything, and shifted to the English education, right? Now what does NEP say? NEP says we have to shift away from rote learning. I will explain to you, rote learning by itself is not bad. It's part of the Indian pedagogy actually, but that meaning of rote learning is different from what we now understand as rote learning. We are talking about preparing students with skills, right? And preparing confident students, critical and creative thinking abilities. Talk about. So what was the difference between how we are looking at education today and how they used to look at it in the past? One is they always thought about holistic education. For us today, we are a placement driven, at least in engineering and other colleges, it's placement driven education. So that's quite different. We are not at all looking at what kind of human being is going out of our colleges. We are only saying that he can do this job. So what are we giving him? we are giving him some tools. We are giving him some tools because the person who wants to receive him also, he is looking at some tools. Now, you taught him some language, Java, and you sent him out, he got a job based on Java. Now, after so many years, employer is saying, no, okay, the era of full stack also is over, that is also over. Now, we need people who learned how to learn. We don't care about what specific language he knows, right? So, that era is gone. So, today if you ask an employer, he will tell you. So, that means we have come full circle. So, just giving him, training in one language, not going to be enough. We have to train him to learn, learning how to learn. Like I said, value-based, missing completely. It has become more a transaction, teacher and student. I have paid the fees, so you give me something. And finally, pass the exam. So, ancient Indian education was quite different, okay. Now, I'll talk a little bit about the Indian philosophy, okay. I am not, somebody who can lecture about philosophy, but having attended such workshops, I will try to put entire Indian philosophy into one sentence, okay. It's like something impossible I will try to attempt. What I have understood is, there are many cycles going on, okay, ritas or whatever you can call them, different names, but basically right from our circadian rhythm to day and night cycle to, everything connected with even say Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara, the creative destruction and then again coming back. So all these cycles are there. So our Indian method is, if I am helping that cycle, if I am supporting that cycle, then I am doing dharma. If I am not supporting that cycle, then I am doing adharma. Very simple. Now, reduce this to one sentence or one word, it simply means sustainability. Whatever is connected, if I am contributing towards sustainability, okay, then I am doing good work. If I am not contributing towards sustainability, then I am not doing good work. So, in this, some of the other things, right now in India, multiple truths are allowed. That means you say your truth is your truth, my truth is my truth. I don't think any other civilization that is possible. And the goal of knowledge is not the promotion of material comfort. Of course, there is one reason also for this. See, what happened in the West, if you were living in some part of Europe, you have like minus 30 degrees, you have lot of ice, you have a lot of difficulty, physical difficulties are there. So their whole concept is, how can I conquer nature so that I will be comfortable? You have to conquer nature to be comfortable. But in India, you have a lot of sunshine, you have Ganga, you have Yamuna, you have got Kaveri, everything. So then you can think of so many other things. Right? So here our thing is, we don't want to conquer nature. We want to learn how to live with nature, how to actually help everything be sustainable. So the entire concepts are different. Okay. So, yeah. So every discipline has got components of dharma in it. That means ethics, right? Is a part of every branch of knowledge. So we need, jnana in terms of language, in terms of, I will move to the next slide. So knowledge of knowledge, language, knowledge of fundamental principles of existence, spiritual knowledge, and of course the vijnana, right? And then we have to develop the person in terms of physical development, energy regulation, mental development, spiritual growth, social responsibility, so many areas. So we are not looking at just one silo, one box, right? We want to create a person who has got lot of things. What is the purpose now? Actually, this is one Dr. Sai. He has developed this recently and shared it. Actually, it's part of an article, I think, online also. So, what is the main responsibility of the teacher? The teacher's responsibility, the first one, is creating curiosity. That is the first responsibility. And whose responsibility it is to learn? It is the responsibility of the student, not of the teacher. Right? So, our method is student is owning the responsibility of learning, not the teacher. But teacher has got some specific roles. One is to create the curiosity. Unfortunately, we are missing out on this part completely. Right? So, of course, the second one is about self-learning by the student. So, why should we do all this? Because there is a joy of learning should be there. Today's student, does he enjoy this joy of learning? Unlikely. Right? So, how do you bring this joy of learning? Of course, examination, was in earlier days not what we are talking about examination or evaluation was very different, right? There was a joy, it was more of a competition, spardha, right? And it was more about enjoying the process of answering the questions rather than now it becomes one big load, one is carrying. Come to this, actually I'm like, so present system demands obedience, whereas the Bharatiya system says freedom to learn. So what are we looking at? We are looking at students who are obedient to us. They should sit in a row, they should be silent, like that. We don't want him to have the freedom to ask questions. We don't want him to, if he asks questions and I don't know the answer, then what? That is one of the problems, right? So, and present is we are trying to create a selfish world, whereas our method I just explained to you, we are trying to create a harmonious world. Sustainable, harmonious, those are the words connected with the Indian method of education. And today we have passed the industrial age. Now we are inner growth age. This is the next phase and this is where Bharatiya will come in very strong. When I was looking for a job, I was looking for any job. I wanted monthly salary, any job was fine. Now if you interview a student, he will ask you, is your company practicing green manufacturing? Is your company sustainable? What is your company's view about diversity? So, they are asking to work in certain type of environment and if you don't offer that environment, he is fine. He is comfortable, no problem. So, but as we go to the inner growth age, we have lots of things. And today, like I said, it's a transaction. You're dumping information, that's it. But the Indian methodology is, can you train him to be a lifelong learner? Can you train, not about what material I have transferred. It is about can I transform him so that he tries to become a lifelong learner. Yeah, so I want to take I included this slide because when we talk about rote learning, many negative perceptions are there about rote learning. But Indian system has rote learning as a very important part, right? But it is not the rote learning which is now prevalent, not the mechanical type of rote learning. There, rote learning was a precursor to understanding. So what they said is, first you learn, memorize and be able to say it exactly like the teacher says, and then we will discuss about the meaning. That was how it was done. Today what has happened, that meaning part is completely given up, and we only talk about the just mugging up the things, right? So I'll take you through some important people who have done work in this area. You have heard all these names. So Rabindranath Tagore, he talks about learning through nature, creativity and self-expression. Professor here is there who was in Shanti Niketan, right? That's his method. He says that it is for the student to find solutions in the lap of nature, within, the community, right, rather than in the classroom. J. Krishnamurti, we'll just hear him, I got his video, right? So, he has got very specific idea as to what is the role of a student. It matches very well with what Vivekananda says about, that everything already exists in the child or in your student, right? So your job is only to awaken it. It's not like, that it's empty and you are pouring into the no. It's already there, right? And Aurobindo talks about integral education. So if you go to Shanti Niketan, you will see the classes are held under the trees, right? Whatever the course. You will see that the university is connected to the tribals around in many ways. Whether it is selling their produce or it is training them or whatever way, And today, I think a lot of foreigners come to Shanti Niketan so that they get exposed to the tribals and other communities, because they have like such a long relationship with the community. They built a community. There are 2 or 3 community markets that happen within the university campus, right? Every Saturday there is one mela. Every, I think, summer there is one more mela, like that. So they have different things. Now you look at, so what can we do? How can we apply some of the things that Rabindranath Tagore talks about? One is, can we, talk about eco-literacy? How many of our students are understanding the ecology or, balance that is required? And artistic and expressive learning. See, unfortunately, this is completely missing from educational institutions today. Don't give them a chance to express themselves. Okay. We have once in a year some school or college day or something like that, but on a regular basis, there is no way they can express themselves, right? And rural immersion projects, hands-on research, right? I'll talk about, this is Aurobindo's model. He talks about integral education. He says a strong, supple, healthy, beautiful body, then personality, intelligence, right? As well as the spiritual quality. So what they're talking about is, actually this is what Satyasai institutions, they have put it in a nice diagram. So they're talking about teacher, student at the bottom, and then they say devotional, cultural, right, physical, service, as well as intellectual. So all components they want to address. Students and teachers, they are working on all of this. It is not just simply, I am dumping some course, one subject onto them. That is not the thing. It must aim at full development of personality. Today we are even hesitant, not hesitant, I'll say we are afraid to speak to our students. This is the fact, right? So what does, like I said, nothing can be taught without the students' involvement. I will also tell you something about what the ancient Indian, discussions about the qualities of a teacher. But more important are also the qualities of a learner. The learner doesn't have the interest to learn, how are you going to, you're wasting time, right? The other thing is education should work from near to, that is, we don't even talk about the previous class in this class. So we are not identified as to what they already know and connect with what they already know and then move on to the next subject, right? So this is some of the things. We'll talk about reflection in a minute, but this is something we're completely missing. J. Krishnamurti was an interesting person, right? I don't know how many of you have visited any of the J. Krishnamurti schools. They are there all over India. It's a very popular method. So he says the problem is the teachers are standing like this on a stage and talking to the students down there, which is the fundamental problem. Until you are at the same level and you are talking, right, it's complete waste of time and energy, right? So when you don't have love for your student, when you don't have respect for your student, and the rest, similarly, it is not reciprocated, no learning can happen, right? ಮಾಡಬೇಕಲ್ಲ yes.
So, then we ask, what then is education? You understand? How is this to be brought about? What is the function of a teacher, the educator? What is his relationship to the student? And what is his relationship to the parent? You're following all this? I hope, are we meeting each other? Let's begin with, what is the relationship of the educator with the student? What is his relationship to the student? The speaker, K, because when he goes to India, he spends practically a month in each place of these schools, talking with the students. is the relationship of an educator, the teacher, to the student? Is the relationship based on giving information from a status as a teacher? You understand? Status. He knows and the other fellow doesn't know, which is a fact. And so his relationship to the student is merely that of giving information, knowledge of a particular subject to the student. So he has really no relationship with the student. But when the educator steps down from his platform, from his status, and begins to establish a relationship with the student, in the sense that the teacher is concerned not only with the technological knowledge, but with the whole psychological structure, but also what kind of food he eats, what kind of clothes he wears, how he behaves, how he talks, how he eats, how he walks. You understand? All this is part of the relationship between the teacher and the student. So there is no teacher separate from the taught. Am I making? And begins to establish a relationship with the student.
So his contribution basically talks about free the mind from fear. Many of our students, they're studying with some fear, right? And conditioning as well as authority. Self-inquiry, deep questioning, right, are more valuable than rote learning. Teachers as facilitators. Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute. So what can we do, right? How many of you heard of growth mindset? Right, so actually this is a separate lecture I do wherever I get a chance. Try to read up about growth mindset, right? You will get two kinds of students. One who have got a fixed mindset and one who has got a growth mindset. Growth mindset are those fellows who say, okay, you failed me in this test, no problem. But you also, they are the fellows after you give the test results, they'll come to you and say, why did I get so much less marks? Where did I go wrong? Can you help me to make the correction so that next time I will solve the problem? The fixed mindset fellows are those who are only after marks. They'll say, why I got less than so and so? Why should you not give me marks, more marks? Right? Those are the kind of guys, they are not interested in the real issue of learning. Right? They just want to get the marks because their parents have told them, somehow you get first highest mark. Don't worry about how, what, why, where. So you'll see both kinds of students, those with a fixed mindset and those with a growth mindset. Obviously, the fellow with a growth mindset, in life, he will be much more successful. Right? So the guy with a fixed mindset, he'll get stuck. Okay. So he's talking about that, growth mindset, try to inculcate. So I pulled out some literature about teaching in the earlier days, right? So one is, learning from within, and one is interaction with the world, which is called the experience, right? So there are two types of learning, right? Then one guy has written about Bhagavad Gita. He says that entire thing, whatever I spoke to you now about earlier method and what is required today, finally it comes down to the teacher has to be a mentor. He cannot just deliver one subject and go away, right? You have to be a mentor, which means that you are looking at all aspects of this person's growth as a human being, right? It's tough, but that's what our Indian methodology is. If you want to start practicing the Indian methodology, then you have to get into this. That can I start looking at a student as a person and how can I transform this person? Not how I can give him information, that is not the thing. Can I transform this person? Right? Over the 4 years he is spending with me or 1 semester, whatever it is. So what foreigner has discovered is to be a mentor, if you have read Bhagavad Gita, that's good enough. All the qualities you need to be a good mentor, you will find in Bhagavad Gita. Now, in what one of Jagadguru Shankara, what he has written, Upadesa Sahari, in which he talks about the qualities of a teacher. Also, before I get into what are the pedagogical tools used in ancient India, I want to tell you also what are the qualities of a teacher, right? First is, he should have tranquility, self-control, right? Compassion and a desire to help others. Today, we are looking at teaching as a job, right? In ancient India, it was a sacred duty. It was something very sacred to be a teacher or even to be a student. Today, it is just one more job, right? They paid me 20,000 as a receptionist and they pay me 22,000 as a teacher, so I'll become a teacher. And the desire to help others, then what else? Never a transgressor of rules of conduct. Devoid of shortcomings such as ostentation, pride, deceit, cunning, jugglery, jealousy, falsehood, egotism and attachment. Very clearly mentioned what are the qualities of a teacher. How many teachers can we find? Just look around us, right? You know all their qualities, right? So you can easily judge who might be a good teacher and who is not. The sole aim is to help others. Some things about the ancient pedagogy, memorization and rote learning, but like I explained already, it is different from what we understand now as rote learning. A lot of importance was given to observing, inferring, performing and practicing. Your entire engineering education should actually happen on a shop floor in some factory. Should not be in a classroom if you were to practice our Indian method. Questioning and exercising judgment. Rarely we give opportunities to any student to question. Say that was going to not allow me to complete the syllabus. So just shut up. Collective learning, peer-to-peer learning, I'll talk a little more in detail. Right, self-study, debates, right? And in ancient India, there was another interesting quality is, as I finished learning with one teacher, okay, then I feel that, no, what I want to learn, there's another better teacher in another town. So what I do is I transfer, I just go to the other teacher and learn that part from him. And after some time, I don't want that, I want to learn something else, then I move to what our NEP now talks about, transfer of credits, right? Very much existent during the Takshashila and the Nalanda days. So now what is happening is you have to spend all the 4 years in one college and whatever they give, you have to take the whole thing. Why should it be like that, right? Very important part of ancient Indian education system was Samvad. None of us have been trained in this. So there are lots of courses nowadays, by the way, online on Samvad. I encourage every teacher, please do a course on how you can conduct debates in the classroom. There are many courses available. It's really interesting, but it needs preparation, a lot of preparation from the teacher as well as the student. These are some of the things connected with pedagogy. Right? So one way of learning is direct perception or experiential learning. And the second is learning internally by the student himself, right? And even how to this is one thing again, our students are missing this. Basically, if you ask them to provide a logical argument, right? They can't. You try with your students. You take any subject and say, you provide a logical argument. Most likely they won't be able to do that. So how do you do that? There are some specific things. No? You first make a statement, then you give a reason, right? And then give an example, and then give a situation where it is actually applied, right? And then come to the conclusion. This should be there for everything. For a teacher, this is how you should be teaching for every concept. Rarely we do that, right? Because I am from commerce background, I have chosen a commerce kind of example, but it's a very simple example, nothing to. So I am talking about implementing a customer loyalty program will increase sales. That is the statement, right? Why? Because once you have a loyalty program for customers, they will buy again and again. Now, what is the example? For instance, company X implemented a loyalty program and saw 20% increase in repeat purchases. So that is an example, right? Then we can talk about the application. What can we do in our company, right? Or whatever we are choosing. Then we come to a conclusion. Very critical is about the example, right? Unfortunately, we are calling some subjects as theory subjects. I don't know what actually is the meaning of that. It means that we are not going to discuss any application, we are not going to discuss any examples, right? We'll just give you some statements made by some great author and that's it. That's called a theory subject. So I don't know how far it is useful at all, but yeah. So examples are very critical, and this is the area I am working in basically. Where I work, what we are trying to do is, can we get Indian examples in the area of business management, right? So there are lots of wonderful Indian examples which unfortunately don't find place in the teaching. We are mostly using the American examples, right? So nobody knows about Cave Coffee Day, but a lot of cases are there about Starbucks, how they do, what they do and all that, right? All of you have heard this, but are we considering this, right? If you go through literature, it's only Shravana, Manana and Nidhyasana, but in between, some authors have added also to remember and concentrate. But when we say listening, they are basically talking about the teacher being such an expert that even his pronunciation, everything is so perfect that it is getting into, and also listening is also intent. It's active listening. It's not listening like we have presently. It's very much active listening because you have to then, it doesn't end there with listening. Okay, you have to reflect. Unfortunately, this is what I was, if you want to remember just, couple of words from whatever I am speaking today, One of them is reflection, because this is one thing that we have completely missed out. The second word is about providing some kind of a orientation. Okay, we don't provide orientation to our students. I'll talk about that in detail a little bit later. But definitely, we are completely kind of not giving any time for reflection. There is absolutely no time for reflection, right? So, in our 60 minutes class or whatever, or even at the end of the day or during the weekend or whenever, there is no time for him to chew and digest and form his own opinion about this, right? Say, so you have said something in the class, right? He has to verify whether that is true based on what he has experienced in life. Right? You said the sky is blue. He has to actually go out sometime and see that the sky is blue. Then he'll get convinced, yeah. What teacher said and what is really I'm seeing is similar. And so then that gets internalized, or the last part, right? So we are not giving any time for this reflection at all, right? We are making him not to think. We are not giving him time, opportunity, or any suggestions about thinking at all. Now, good thing I just put one word there. Okay, I didn't expect my previous speaker to be here, and so I'm very happy that I think, is this already, have you covered this, sir, in the previous session? No, okay. Now, the only branch, okay, which is using ancient pedagogy or our Bharatiya pedagogy contemporarily is Ayurveda. So, these are people who are using these ancient techniques, right? Whether I am talking about pedagogy, but most of the teaching learning aspects. Only Ayurveda is using this. So, for example, this is about how one can present a thesis. It's a wonderful, and I'm sure if you were to talk about it, you can probably connect it with engineering education. At least let us start with using this as a structure for the thesis presentation. Okay, not in every class or anything, but at least for thesis presentation, because there's a wonderful structure how you prepare a thesis or how you present a thesis. Now, with his being present, I'm too scared to delve further into that. Anyway, so the NEP also talks about student-centric learning. Okay. Bharatiya method also is very much student-centric. All of you probably heard about Gurukula. I'll take just 4 or 5 minutes to look at what can we pick from this Gurukula that we can use in our classrooms today. So, of course, the relationship between teacher and disciple, that is one. I already mentioned about being a mentor, and you'll see even the recent research, recent great people connected with education, they are also recommending the same thing. No, if you talk about Montessori or what, they are saying there should be this kind of a relationship with the student, right? It should be a mentor kind of relationship. Pedagogy that is not, made, or rather, even the curriculum should be customized. Otherwise, all learners are not equal. What we are doing is, we are offering the same thing to every kind of student. But as a teacher, we have to nuance it. We should be able to adjust what we are giving, what we are delivering based on the student. So, elder students, this peer-to-peer learning, we read about it, but we hardly practice it. I was myself quite surprised that one guy, he came to Chennai and he this is talking about the company days or the, East India Company. And his job was to train the army soldiers. Most of them, the soldiers were Indians. And then he used to go around in Chennai, see the other schools, what they were doing. And what he discovered was the senior student is always teaching the junior student. Okay. And the second thing is they didn't need boards, blackboard, right? They would sit outside the school, in the sand itself they would do the writing. Otherwise, we say for every 30 students, we should have 20 square feet of blackboard and all this kind of. So some of the things, he just saw this, and then he went to England back and he started a school. And what did he call it? He called it the Madras School. You can read about it. It's a very interesting story. Okay. So what is the specialty about this Madras School? They use this method of peer-to-peer teaching, right? Teaching and learning. I was talking about, whether it is the Upanayana or the initiation, or as he is graduating, also there is a ceremony and there is some lectures provided to him as to how he should use this knowledge after he goes out, right? After he goes out also, say after 15 years or 20 years, the Guru meets the Sishya somewhere, he goes to his house and he says, I'm having, okay, I will have lunch at your house. And while he is having lunch, what does he want this student to do? He said, no, when you were in our Gurukula, I taught you about X, Y and Z. Can you repeat those shlokas now? That was a common practice. That is, after many years also, has he grown from that? Has he remembering all those things? Right? So, learning was for life. It's not like today I am learning and tomorrow I am just forgetting. So, unfortunately, our system has no importance to orientation. Of course, I think recently, some years ago actually, AICT said every college should have 3 weeks internship, orientation. But I don't see many colleges doing 3 weeks orientation. And definitely for every course, the orientation is like very, very low. So the student doesn't even know why he is studying this subject. Now, in the first slide, I said you have the job of as a teacher is how can you make him inquisitive? You are not providing any orientation. You never told him why he is studying this subject. What is the application of this subject? Where he can go and verify whatever you are talking. Can he walk into some factory and see it, or can he go somewhere and check it out? Nothing we have discussed, right? So, the syllabus, the textbook, and that's it. Right? So then, how will he get any interest? How will he get any curiosity? Right? So orientation, I think, if you start doing a good orientation, already you have adopted the Bharatiya way. And very critical is, as a teacher, they looked at transformation rather than information based. Right? So can we change the student? The day he came and the day he is passing out, what is the difference in him as a person? How many of us are able to look at this? And you will be surprised, you have so much power, you can do a lot. You think that, no, he doesn't listen to me, or he doesn't, it's not at all like that. It's not at all like that. Even if you are not a teacher, just as somebody who is meeting the other person every day for one semester, you can bring about a transformation. So, I urge each one of you, you have to shift from being a lecturer to being a guru. That is what is the Indian method, right? So, dispel the darkness. What does that mean, right? What does that mean? Growing from professor to guru means what? One is, you are not just transferring some information, but you are sharing your own experience. You are sharing your experience. You went and saw this process somewhere. Can you explain about that? Maybe in engineering it is about a video you saw about some company or about a factory and how actually they are doing it. Rather than saying chapter 7, page number 47, right? So, knowing and being. Teachers are always, most of us are in the realm of I know. I know to be a teacher is very different from being a teacher. If you are a teacher, if you get a call in the middle of the night from a student, you should be happy to receive it and respond. You're not going to get angry because you are a teacher. But if you have the information that how to be a teacher, there's a different game altogether, right? So being is different and knowing is quite different. It is not a transaction, it's only one way. So Guru does not expect anything. He is doing it as a divine kind of or a sacred duty. He is doing the job of a teacher is a sacred duty. So he is not expecting some great profit out of that, nothing. After all, in the earlier days, the Shishya would go and beg for the teacher, right? So whatever alms he collected, he gave it to the teacher. That's what it was. And like I said, we are not adding to his knowledge, but we are trying to transform that whole person. And with our students, today we have a mind connection, we have to have a heart connection. Can we have a heart connection? So I said, let us also look at whatever I spoke, is it connected with NEP? Is it really something that our regulators or governments or our managements, are they also looking at all these things? You will be surprised that many of these will have to be adopted if you want to implement NEP. So there is a lot of importance today on learning how to learn. And those who are interested, there is a lovely free course online on learning how to learn. I think it is either MIT or one of the American universities have put up. If you are interested, I can send you the link. I completed that course. It's just too good because we are never taught how to learn. I'm telling you this. I should have been taught how to learn when I was in school. Nobody taught us this. Now, of course, NEP says learning how to learn. Interdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary thinking, again, if you see many of these gurus in the earlier times, it was always integrated. Now, recently, actually, I saw one primary school textbook. Okay, that is a recent, I'm talking after NEP, somebody, I think Delhi government or somebody, they have developed one textbook for primary school. And one activity is going to the market. Right? So the students have to be taken to the market. Now, when they go to the market, they have to learn about numbers because they will be asked to count some vegetables or look at the bill of the vegetable vendor, right? So they are learning some math skills from that. Then they are also looking at the supply chain, that is how the vegetable comes there, what van is bringing it, what time, and also so that is the supply chain aspect. Right? Then how are they marketing, how are they selling the product, right? And then some maybe concepts from biology about perishability and things like that. All this is being taught in one visit to the market. So when you go to the factory, some visit to the factory, how much are we planning to talk not just about, the mechanical part of it, but maybe also the human resources part of it, maybe also, different components of that or whatever, right? So that is actually the way to go about, then they get an integrated view. Also, they understand the connection between the various things, right? Unfortunately, what has happened, even in our medical profession, the guy who wants to treat the right eye doesn't want to look at the left eye. Very sad thing, whereas we should look at it and show to our students also in a more integrated way, cross-disciplinary and interdisciplinary way. Discussion, debate, inquiry-driven learning, right? So, this is also the Indian method. Holistic, well-rounded, these are all words I picked up from the NEP, right? Till now, whatever I told you of Bharatiya education is the same thing, more or less the same words. Ethical and value-based, right? So, I already told you, today the crisis in the world is about ethical people, right? We are not having ethical people. It's a big issue. And we have lot of things to share. First of all, very few can answer the question, why should I be ethical? So we have all the answers. The last couple of slides. Anybody can share with me what you understand by this critical thinking? We hear and read a lot about this critical thinking. What do you mean by that? Now, if you see what they talk about, 21st century skills, one of the important things is critical thinking. What is that? You've given me half the answer, but I want the full answer.
Out of that particular object or material or application.
Anybody else? What is critical thinking? No, don't worry about the classroom. Just what is critical thinking?
Sir, if anyone is in a particular situation, they have to look out for the pros and cons, what is good and what is bad. So if he thinks about future consequences, then act according to that. So we refer for that as a critical thinking.
Minute part of the things thinking is
Looking at the minute parts.
Yes.
Okay.
Sir,
Logical reasoning. Okay, good one. She also has given part of the answer.
sir, it's a systematic analysis and evaluation of the ideas what we teach or whatever the things we want to tell to our students.
Come again. Critical and
It is an systematic evaluation and analysis of the ideas what we want to present to our
systematic
students.
analysis and
Evaluation.
evaluation of the situation or whatever it is. And then whatever, there is what you said, right? What did you say? So you, madam, has said, consequences, but before that there are maybe some alternatives. There we have to use the logical reasoning. Right? So basically, it is about not being reactive. Sometimes what happens, we are reactive. Instead of being reactive, we are saying, do you have the skills to evaluate the problem in all its dimensions, think logically for the right response or the right answer? That is the skill of critical thinking. It appears very simple. But do our students have it? How can we pass on this? You have not given them a situation where they have to think only. Where is about all the other things? You have not put them in a place where they have to use their brain only. You are simply saying, mug up paragraph 1 from page 47 and paragraph 7 from page 90, and that's it for the exam. So how will he develop critical thinking? Tomorrow when he goes to some factory and he has to find a situation there, and there he has to analyze the situation. Right? She used some nice word, logically evaluate whatever, right? And then look at the alternatives, consider the consequences, and then come up with this. How will he do it? Is it very difficult? It is not difficult. It is not difficult, just we are not doing it, that's all. Okay. So quickly, the last part of my, how can we actually bring all of whatever I spoke into our own classrooms? Right? I would suggest that today mindfulness is a big area, right? So I was just reading that this IIT in Bangalore, their students, they have got a project about studying the EEGs of people who are doing this mindfulness, and then can they use AI to improve the ability for mindfulness. Project like that. So can we do something in the classroom to bring the attention of everybody so that they can concentrate better, right? Then second is, of course, the embrace mentorship, I already told you, right? Can we use material from ancient India in the classroom? You might say, the metallurgy from ancient India, we have advanced a great deal. Or may not be, I don't know. Maybe debatable. But maybe can we talk about some stories or some say achievements from past that will kind of bring their attention, something that they will connect to, something that they will connect to. So I don't know much about the town of Mysore, but I'm sure there are many examples to teach your subject from Mysore. But we never thought about it that way. Right? So for your own subject, can we find some living examples in Mysore? So that is the thing. So if you read Natya Shastra, for example, you might dramatize some parts of the lecture or ask them to do some role plays. Right? So this all can be done in the classroom. So balancing theory and practice, unfortunately we are too much in the, then can we talk about values in the classroom? Actually every subject has got an ethical component, right? Unfortunately you will not find it in the syllabus. Every subject, whether even if you take, now biggest debate is going on about ethics and AI. And every subject will have an ethical component. So are we talking about that? And peer-to-peer learning, some group activities, so that the relationships are built between teacher and taught, between taught and taught, right? Now, somebody was telling me the greatest contribution of India to the world is about this self-discipline, right? Most of the material that you have will talk about self-discipline. If you are able to inculcate this, this is something that that can transform them. It can really transform somebody, including us. If we are able to manage or if you are able to practice self-discipline, right, you will be a different person. So connected with self-discipline is dinacharya, right? So how much of our students' dinacharya are we aware of even? We hardly know what is their dinacharya. And then can we influence some change in that? Can we ask them to do some meditation? Can we ask them to do some yoga, maybe in the beginning of the day? And I already talked about this reflection. Okay, we should include it in every test or in every class test or class whatever. Try to give them 15 minutes to actually think and come back with some response. Encourage lifelong learning. Nobody tells the student, no, what is the value of this lifelong learning? Why should I be learning for whole life? As a teacher, no, you are learning throughout your life because you have to, otherwise, whatever subjects you taught today may not be available as a subject tomorrow, right? So for that reason, you are learning and upgrading yourself. But what about the student? Is he being told that the same, even worse situation happens in the workplace? So you should have the tools on how to learn. You see some TikTok, some fellows, they are learning a new language in 30 days. I generally see one TikTok fellow, American, he will go walk into a Chinese restaurant and talk to all of them in Chinese. Then he'll walk into one South Indian restaurant and talk to all of them in Tamil. And nobody charges him any money for the food because they are so impressed with his communicating in their language. And this fellow is in New York, by the way. And all kinds of, languages are spoken, all kinds of restaurants are there. So every day he'll go to a new one and he'll put, and you will be surprised. Then he has also discussed one video where he talks about how he learns, right? 30 days only it takes. So he has got a method of that. Right? So there is a methodology, right? So like I said, our entire being is about sustainability. Are we bringing him, like I said, are we talking about the environmental aspects in our classroom? Not only the ethical, but also the environment. Assessment as a learning tool. For many, actually, assessment is like a punishment. Or it is something just to kind of get over with, right? Very rarely I have seen faculty providing constructive feedback to the student, not in a putting him down, right? Not in that way. Because we are building that person, right? We are trying to build that person, where he is today and where he should be at the end of that period of time. So what is the feedback we should give? Rarely we see faculty who are giving individualized, positive, I mean, even though he has made mistakes, not to ignore them, but to say it in a positive way. Feedback, very rare. Of course, time management. So we start with changing our relationship, right? Make simple changes in pedagogy. Start, like I said, bringing in local examples, field visits, increase the field visits, have more debates and discussions. Very simple, I am giving you tools then that you can bring in the Bharatiya way. That's all. It is not anything, I am not going to discuss with you about each of those tools, right? I am giving you something that we can do from tomorrow, right? While this is happening, research on Indic educational philosophy, because pedagogy, because lot of material is there about Indic pedagogy, and also for every course or every subject, how it can be taught using the Indic pedagogy. Lot of professors and others have written about it already. So look at that and build your skill. Like I said, get training. And this is where institutions have to invest, right? Institutions have to shift to Indic way of teaching, means they have to train their faculty, right? So, like I said, this getting into this is a lifelong process, and the next generation of students, I hope they would be taught by you slightly different from how you are teaching them today. It will happen only if you are interested. Right? No NEP, no government regulations, none of those are going to make any difference. Right? It's only when the teacher wants to be a guru, when he is taking interest in the students, then only he or she will adopt all these methods, and some change will happen. Right? So, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, sir, for delivering such an insightful session. Now I request Dr. Praveen Kumar Melali, sir, and Dr. Bhagyashree ma'am to felicitate our resource person. Dr. G.P. Sudhakar, sir, Professor, CESS, Bengaluru. Thank you, one and all.